Jonathan Perry. I'm really into aviation, and one thing I'm very familiar with is spatial disorientation, which is when you can't see the horizon and you could be upside down and not even know it. As an analogy, could that same kind of spatial disorientation be caused if you're hooked up to a lie detector or E-meter and the operator is telling you that what you're saying isn't true when you know for a fact it is? If I hooked myself up to a lie detector and just asked it questions, I think I would lose my bearings really fast and could convince myself of anything. Especially if you believe that I tell the lie detector that the sky is purple enough that eventually I will believe it and won't even know what blue means anymore. What do you think? All right, Jonathan, thank you for this. I thought I would take advantage of this question because it's a good question, and I thought I would bring up two things on this. First thing is, in directly answering your question, Jonathan, yeah, you're kind of describing a bit of a disassociation or a disassociated state, or, you start kind of, losing touch with reality, feeling, woozy, or you can't trust your perceptions, or your perceptions somehow seem distorted or off. And that can cause a real panic, that can cause anxiety, that can cause a panic attack. There's a lot of things that could, negative stuff that could spring from such a situation. And so, of course, you'd want to avoid something like that. Now that, of course, you're talking about asking yourself, and this is, of course, I'm assuming by your questioning that you are looking at the dials or the needles or the pins on the lie detector and watching it. And so you're seeing the responses and reactions in real time as you are sitting there thinking about stuff, and then seeing, what's happening with it. And if you're judging what's happening on that, it could become, you could rev yourself up very quickly because it becomes like a negative feedback loop where the machine is saying, oh, you have a thought or have an idea, and the machine responds negatively for whatever reason, or you're interpreting that the machine is responding negatively. And then you're like, oh God, well, that was wrong. And then it does it again. Oh no, right? Then, that was wrong too. Oh no, but then that was it, and the anxiety level starts coming up, you see, because what's happening with a lie detector and what's happening with an E-meter is it's measuring skin resistance to an electrical flow. It's an electrical resistance. And the electrical signal, by the way, and I think I've said this before, but the electrical signal is going over the surface of your skin. It is not penetrating your skin. It's not registering your heartbeat. It's not registering, your deep muscle tissue or anything like that. There's not enough electronic force going through the carrier wave of the signal going across your body to penetrate your skin. So it just covers over the surface of it. So what is it that changes the resistance of your skin? What does that? Sweat, muscle tension, change in hormones, change in pulse will or can affect it, right? But mostly it's going to be moisture content, saline content. It's going to be muscle tension, and which is in terms of the lie detector or the E-meter has to do with how much contact with the leads is going on, you see. So if you increase the amount of contact, then you decrease resistance because you're increasing contact. So you can, and if you're squeezing the cans, even micro tensions in your muscles, you can't even feel the changes, or micro changes in the moisture in your palm or even anywhere on your skin, underarms, etc. Remember, the electrical flow is going all over. So these things are what the needle on the dial or the pins on a lie detector, that's what it's registering. It's not measuring your thoughts. There is no way to directly measure your thoughts, not like that. Okay, not with electrical skin resistance. There isn't. Okay, so you have to understand what it is that's being measured in order to understand what the machine's actually doing versus, in Scientology, let's say, what Hubbard says the E-meter is doing, or even with a lie detector, it's not a lie detector. It's a skin measurer, you know? And the lie detector, of course, is also measuring heart rate. It's got another thing that's measuring that, and it's measuring respiration, right? How much are you breathing? So these are the three things that the lie detector or the polygraph is graphing. And that's why it is really fallacious thinking. It's really wrong-headed thinking, in other words, to think that these things are measuring your lies or your truth or are in any way an accurate reflection of what you're thinking about. They're not. Everybody thinks thousands of thoughts all day, every day. You got all kinds of things going on up here, right? Only some of these thoughts affect your body and your system in such a way that it actually changes it in significant ways. And that's where the measurements come in for these machines. And then we start making inferences as to why your body is changing its responses. Oh, his heart rate went up in response to me asking him this question. That must mean he's lying to me. Well, that's not necessarily true at all. That's not a correct inference. Somebody could be nervous for a lot of reasons and their heart could start going up. I happen to have an interesting situation with my heart, I found out years ago, where it will just randomly start going up and down in pulse rate, all on its own. The doctors were like, wow, that's interesting. I said, yeah, that is kind of interesting, isn't it? And that's about, we both shrugged and that was that, right? But that happens. So what if I happen to be sitting on a lie detector, right? Oh, well, you must be lying. That's not necessarily true at all, right? So it's very, very important. These little distinctions that don't sound like a big deal are actually a very big deal when it comes to accurate interpretation of the measurements you're taking. There's nothing wrong with taking these measurements, but what you're going to do with them, right, has a lot to do with whether, what you're doing is manipulative or useful or helpful. So, okay, so those were a couple things I wanted to say about that. The second point I wanted to make is that Hubbard actually, I thought you guys might find this interesting, that in Scientology, Hubbard actually wrote an issue where he said that if you misread an E-meter, you can make anything a reality. He actually acknowledged this exact point, which is why I thought, I would take this question up. Because Hubbard himself said, yeah, this can happen. You can get a ridiculous situation. If you read the meter a particular way, you could create the situation that the example Hubbard gives, well, I won't give that example because it's a little technical, but I'll say, a similar analogy is that you could use an E-meter to convince a person that a cat tortured them through the reads, through the reactions of the needle. If you did it in a particular way, which Hubbard describes and says this is not the right thing to do, but this could happen and this has happened, and so I'm writing this issue so it doesn't happen again. You could get people convinced that absolutely impossible, ludicrous, crazy things that could never have happened actually did happen. And that really is a reflection of interpretation of the needle and the meter again, right? So that's what it kind of comes down to. And like I said, eventually I'll get that video done where I'll break all of this down and I'll show you guys the meter and stuff. But for now, that's descriptive enough, I think, that it kind of gives you some idea of what's going on with this and why it is. I mean, basically what I just explained to you is the reason why the E-meter and all the things Hubbard says about it are absolutely ludicrous, right? They are not universally, nothing, there is no interpretation of these dials and needles and numbers, whether on a lie detector or whether on an E-meter. There is no golden rule, absolutely true thing that these devices will do that will always mean that the person is lying or telling the truth or that you're reading their thoughts. It just doesn't work that way. we're way too complicated and we got way too much stuff going on physiologically and psychologically for such simple Simon interpretations of us. And that's kind of the bottom line with that. So anyway, I hope that is useful and helpful to you, Jonathan. And there you go.